let's get it started.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Monthly Movie Roundup, a series where we look at the movies we looked at last month and ask ourselves, was this anything good? My name is Dan with H, and with me, as always, is my co-host Tavi. Hello, Tavi.
Hey Dan, we're actually doing this one pretty late, so it's actually what is it? It's we're in October now, but we're covering September.
Well, yeah, we always do them pretty late, and by the time we get them out, nobody's actually talking about these movies anymore.
Yeah.
Which begs the question why we keep doing this. But it's fun for us, is the answer to that question, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's a good little retrospective, right? Keeping track of what we've been looking at over the course of this month, or last month, I should say.
Yeah, I guess it gives us a chance to talk about like non-Asian stuff.
That's
for a
right.
change.
Yeah, for those of you that are perhaps new to this series, usually on our podcast we talk about Asian pop culture, but for this series, anything goes. We talk about any films, whether they be old, new, have Asian people in it, don't have Asian people in it. Pretty much anything that we've watched in our letterbox is fair game.
Yep. Give us sponsorship, Letterbox.
Yeah, do it.
So yeah, we're not sponsored by Letterbox. So we'll get that eventual copyright one day. It's like, no, you can't actually.
However, we still use it as a useful tool to keep track of the movies that we've watched, of which they are numerous. Shall we have a look at what we watched?
All right, let's see what you've watched. Let's start off with a stinker that I actually haven't seen.
Okay.
But I've seen it been advertised. Samaritan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did watch that.
Is that the Stallone movie, right?
Yeah. Stallone does a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What do you know about this film?
All I know is that he's sort of he looks like he's a washed up superhero, but I don't even know if I've seen this trailer. Like, it seems that forgettable.
So this was an Amazon Prime release, yeah? And I heard that this movie was kind of verging towards a theatrical release. But then I guess maybe like one of the studio heads watched it and was like, nah, streaming release, I guess. And it kind of gives off that vibe, yeah? Like, this film, it's a superhero film starring Stallone. Well, I guess the premise is, in this world there are two superpowered beings that are virtually indestructible. They're brothers, twin brothers, I guess. And one of them is bad and one of them is good. The good one's name is Samaritan. He's always trying to stop his brother, who is Nemesis. So Samaritan and Nemesis, good and evil. But then, in the opening sequence, this is like explained to us by exposition. It's basically just a voiceover telling us all this. And then there's a sequence, a flashback sequence, I guess, where Samaritan and Nemesis have their final showdown, during which presumably both of them are killed in the fight. And then we cut to this kid, who is the main character of this current story. And the kid is a real Samaritan fanboy. And then he finds out that Sylvester Stallone is his neighbor, and maybe he's Samaritan, because maybe he has superpowers. Spoiler alert. Yes, he has superpowers.
Oh, wow.
He's virtually indestructible. So yeah, it does. Stallone is giving off that kind of washed up superhero vibe. He's playing a very like downtrodden, kind of like a Bruce Willis type character. You know, like he's too old for this shit kind of vibes. But yeah, because of this kid, he kind of gets brought back into this superhero story, I guess, where he's got to fight crime again, albeit reluctantly. What did I give this movie? How many stars?
You gave it 2 stars.
Okay, I mean, that's not super terrible, I guess. I don't feel like I thought this movie was horribly terrible. I just think it was really unoriginal.
Just a little bit below average, I guess.
Yeah. Like there are so many superhero properties, like in today's
I know.
movie climate. From one studio alone, basically, they kind of oversaturated the market as it is, right? So for something like this to come out, you know, I mean, it does have Sylvester Stallone, and he's okay in it. You know, I don't think he ever really half-asses a role from memory, right? Like he always seems like he's putting in effort.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, you're probably right. I can't remember a time where he's like, looks like he's half-assed anything. Maybe he's like not the best actor in everything, even though
he's definitely not the best actor, but I feel like he's an actor that doesn't really phone it in, you know? I mean, prove me wrong in the comments if you have an example, but I can't think of one.
Like he's good in like all the Rocky movies.
Yeah, all of
the Creed movies.
You know, his projects always seem to be pretty close to him, I think. Like, you know, he's doing his Rambo and he's doing his Rockies. Yeah,
he's really good in First Blood, and then kind of all right in all the other ones where he's just stoic, taciturn guy with a traumatized past.
And he's pretty much that in this movie as well. But with superpowers. The superpowers, you know, he's indestructible and super strong. So again, not super original. He does have like a weird character quirk where when he takes damage, healing overheats him. So he needs to cool himself down by like taking a cold shower or eating a lot of ice cream. And if he doesn't do that, his heart might explode.
So he's not indestructible.
Yeah, I guess he's not indestructible. When he says that line, you think that's going to play a part in the movie, but it doesn't play a part in the movie.
The overheating thing.
The heart exploding thing. Like, he mentions it once, and you're like, okay, maybe that's how he's going to meet his demise in the end. But like, it doesn't really factor into the movie at all.
Yeah, that's just bad writing. That's just like, we set
it's
this
either
up,
bad writing or stuff that was cut out, you know. But yeah, like, it's got a young kid as a lead, which again, he's not the best. I don't want to fault him too much because he does seem very young and he's just a kid.
No, just be like all those Japanese directors that just
slap kids until they give
slap their kids. It's what is this? Like why can't you act?
Why do you constantly disappoint me?
And the kids are like crying and stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's what this movie needed. Because if anything, I feel like the kid phones it in a bit, but I think that's just him being inexperienced, you know. But yeah, I feel like, you know, he's doing all right. The antagonist is quite good. I don't know his name, but he's the guy from, what's that zombie Nazi film called?
Overlord?
Yes, Overlord. I think he's in Overlord as an antagonist as well. And I think the director of Overlord also directed this film.
Oh, really? Yeah, it is. Julius Avery. Yeah, you're right. Overlord was a pretty entertaining movie, though. I quite enjoyed Overlord.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I've heard pretty good things.
Yeah, I mean, like, I probably wouldn't watch it again, but like, it's just a little bit of fun. Like, there's zombies and Nazis. You can't really go wrong with that. Like, in terms of fun, it wasn't as violent as I was expecting it to be.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, that seems to be my gripe with every movie whenever you listen to episodes. It's like, we're watching Encanto. It's like, it could have been more violent. Like, you know, it's watching Minions. Yeah, it could have been more violent.
You're a pretty sick guy, Tom.
Yeah, pretty depraved. Pretty sick guy.
Going back to Samaritan, it's fine. Like, I think a lot of people enjoy this and just forget about it. You know, I kind of enjoyed it. Some parts you're like, that's pretty dumb. But, you know, it's a Stallone superhero movie, so what do you expect, really?
Australian director, Julius Avery.
Okay.
went to VCA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's interesting. Risky has done a lot of projects and still doing a lot of projects with a lot of VCA peeps. So
There you go. There's a link to us. Maybe we should have covered this on the podcast.
There you go. So it's actually, Julius, we love your movie, man. I think it's the best movie I've ever seen. It's like the Citizen Kane of superhero movies.
Oh dear, the Citizen Kane of superhero movies. I wonder what. Oh, that's a short contender list, isn't it? All right, I'm done talking about Samaritan. Let's see what you've been watching. Yeah, a few movies that we've covered on our podcast.
Yes, I think some that we're gonna cover.
Talk to me about Mad God, because I wanted to watch this.
Mad God. Mad God is an experience. I can tell you the basic plot line or the basic initial plot. It's about
this is a stop motion animation.
Yeah, stop motion animation. It's kind of set in a different world basically, and it's about this masked figure who is landing on this planet, and I guess you assume that he is going to kill someone because he's the assassin. That's his character's name. And the world is full of monsters. And there's this kind of 1984 tyrannical being that's floating around, and there's all these kind of humanoid figures that are, I guess, slaves. But then the movie takes a turn that I didn't expect, and then it just becomes this really abstract, pretty gory movie. There's one particularly disturbing sequence, which I won't give away. But yeah, this project was done by a dude named Phil Tibbets, I think.
Okay.
And he's a really big special effects guy, and he's worked on a lot of the massive Hollywood films like Jurassic Park. I think
the original Jurassic Park.
The original Jurassic Park. Okay. Yeah. So he's been in the biz for a while, and I think this particular project of his was a passion project that he started, and then he kind of gave up on it, and then some people managed to persuade him to finish it. So this has been in the works for 20 years. I mean, the animation is absolutely stunning. I really love stop motion animation, and there's another stop motion animated film that I watched, movie that I've seen quite like that in a while. It's just it's more, I think it's more the experience and the visuals that carry you through, as opposed to a coherent story. I mean, you might watch it and you might get it, but for my first viewing, it was late at night, and I was oh shit, it's quite a complicated movie.
Do you think it needs analysis or anything
I think so. Yeah, okay. There'll definitely be some people who analyze the movie. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, really, without giving too much away.
That's on Shudder, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Shudder. Yeah, so I like it in the end, but I'm not really sure what to make of it just yet. So maybe it might appear in the best of, maybe not. Who knows? But pretty interesting watch. All right, let's see another movie that you watched. Oh, I mean, we could talk about Uncharted, but I feel that's a very forgettable movie as well. Not much to say about.
I mean, yeah, I can talk quickly about Uncharted. Yeah, it's fine. Well, I'm watching Uncharted, having never played any of the games associated to the series. So I guess I have a kind of maybe a unique perspective on it.
You've only seen me play the games.
Yeah, I've
killing a lot of people.
I've only seen you gunning down massive amounts of goons while Nathan Drake makes little quippy remarks over the dead remains of the men he's killed. The hundreds of men he's killed. He's snapping necks, just cracking wires. It's a bit heartless, really. I've also seen bits of cliff climbing, I guess, where he's having a conversation, but then you can just die, you can just fall off the cliff and like in mid conversation, and Sully's like Nathan or whatever. Video games, they're pretty fun.
Yeah, that's just video games.
But no, I haven't played any of them myself. I don't really know much about the story. To me, and even with my limited experience on the games, to me the casting immediately felt a bit off. So Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg as Sully.
It's definitely, you're not the only, there's definitely many fans of the games who are like, what? Like these guys?
Yeah.
Like, Tom Holland looks like a baby.
Yeah. They don't really look the part. But for them as their movie characters, I think they're fine. I'm not really sure how closely the movie characters adhere to the video game counterparts. Probably elements of them are there, but I feel like because I haven't played the games, I just kind of judge their characters as they appear in the movie, rather than comparing them to the video game characters. So I think I had that, advantage in terms of enjoying this film. That said, it's fine. Especially for someone like me that really enjoys this genre of like adventuring and treasure seeking. I love your National Treasures or Tomb Raiders or Indiana Joneses, all that stuff. But it kind of has this new kind of like I guess glossy vibe. It doesn't capture the same charm as some of those other films. That's probably a lot of nostalgia doing the talking there, because I'm sure if I watched Lara Croft Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, the one with Gerard Butler in it, it's probably not as good as I remember. I think she
Gerard
fights
Butler's in that movie, that's right. Yeah.
He's in one of them, I don't know. She fights a giant robot in one of them.
I know Daniel Craig's in the first one.
Daniel Craig's in the first one, is he?
Yeah, and Gerard Butler.
So Gerard Butler's in the second one, probably.
Yeah, Gerard Butler, yeah.
But they're probably not good. But I remember them fondly having watched them as like a young lad. So probably young people watching Uncharted are probably going to have the same fondness of it when they grow older, maybe. But to me, it just felt like a kind of a pale comparison to the others. It kind of felt like The Lost City. Remember that movie that I talked about?
Oh, yeah, that movie.
But I mean, Lost City, whereas it was a love letter to that particular genre, Uncharted just felt like, it felt like that new Tomb Raider movie. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I did watch that one. It's very forgettable.
Yeah.
I didn't like it very much. I just thought, in
Uncharted's favor, it is more fun than that film.
Yeah, that movie needed a bit more violence. Because
Lara Croft is fucking stabbing people through the jaw with a pickaxe in her game, isn't she?
Yeah, it's based off those games, which are pretty violent games. So I think they toned it down a bit too much, and it's just didn't have any impact. The only thing that really drew me to the Uncharted movie was that the cinematographer is like a pretty famous South Korean cinematographer, like Chung Hoon Chung. He did he did Burning and Old Boy and Last Night in Soho.
Okay.
Some very very prolific films. But
it's not a bad looking film, I think.
Yeah, that's why I was curious. Like, does it look good? Like, it's probably
the parts
it's shot
where it's not a green screen look pretty good. There's a lot of green screen in this film, I think.
Yeah.
They open on that bit where it's the plane and there's like cargo boxes falling out of the plane, and he's jumping from box to box, that bit. And then they do that really annoying thing where they cut to like 3 weeks earlier or whatever. But I wouldn't say that the faults of this movie are due to the casting. I actually think the casting is pretty good. Like,
okay, it's
Tom Holland is good. I think, like, genuinely, I think he works with all the quips. He does a lot of parkouring in it. Yeah, he's quite good. He's got the physicality for that kind of action. You know, he's not like knocking out people in one blow. That's more Mark Wahlberg style.
Yeah.
Does Sully do a lot of fighting in the video games?
Not that I can remember, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is probably like a Sully origin story, because Mark Wahlberg is still like able to punch on. He's he's doing some big action scenes. He doesn't have a mustache for the majority of the film. He gets his mustache at the end of the film in like mid-credit scene. So yeah, it could be more of an origin film for the Sully character than anything. But yeah, I thought the casting was good, and it's just like everything else is pretty forgettable, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds pretty forgettable.
It's fine. I think if you like that kind of film, you'll probably enjoy it and then forget about it. Much like Samaritan. You've got a bunch of like good stuff that you watched, and I know you probably want to talk about all of them, but I don't want to listen to all of them. So what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about, Tavi?
I talked about another stop motion animated film that I watched, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
You mentioned this. Movie? You mentioned this when we talked off camera, which we try not to do generally.
We never try not to talk to each other off camera because there's always content.
Yeah, because I don't get paid for that.
But yeah, no, it's a A24 production. It's kind of like a half live action, half stop motion animated film about. It's like a mockumentary about like this little shell that has shoes on named Marcel, who's like he kind of lives in this house alone with his grandma and a filmmaker who's staying there like temporarily for like an Airbnb. And yeah, I think like the journey of the film is Marcel, he's kind of like lost his family because of an incident that involved the previous tenants of the house. So yeah, it's actually a very, very simple film to follow. Not a complicated plot at all. And it's pretty predictable, yeah, for sure. But I think what really stands out about this movie is just like its charm. It's a really like beautiful looking film.
Okay.
And just the stop motion animation is like sublime in this movie. You know, you never can tell like you can't tell like he looks like he's there, you know. You can tell that it's not like obviously there's some kind of green screen or I don't know how he does it, because there's a lot of like you know when you kind of shoot a doco and there's a lot of handheld shots.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of shots that involve the shell, but he's like it's handheld as well, like as if like the director is moving to another location with the shell, and it's like it's pretty amazing, and I'd love to see how they did it. I think it's based on a couple of shorts that the director and the actress who does the voice for Marcel, Jenny Slate, who you might know as the woman with the dog in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just a really nice movie. Like you can watch this with your family. And this movie doesn't need any violence because it's not that kind of movie. So there's no criticism to that. But it's just a really good watch, I think.
Family-friendly stuff, huh?
Yeah. It's interesting because you'd obviously, like people would see it as like, oh, this is a kid's movie because it's animated. But it's not really a kid's movie. There's some very slight, edgy humor that involves like weed, I guess. But
would you liken it to the story from like a Disney Pixar film?
Yeah, I guess so.
Inside Out or whatever.
Yeah, it's probably a bit more art housey than that, just in its depictions, because like with Pixar movies, there still needs to be that element of like, cartoonish fun.
Yeah.
Where I think this movie, it's definitely geared more towards like adults in a sense that there are a lot of like sort of quiet moments. And there are like, there are some themes. I like how it kind of takes a very subtle, slight jab at influencer culture. So like, I always enjoy that shit. But it's a really like
and subscribe,
movie.
by the way. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. We'll do more pranks because pranks are still cool, But yeah, I'd watch this with anyone. It's really like it's such a nice movie, Like there's some parts that will maybe make you tear up a little bit, but like it's obviously, not a depressing ending. It's just it's just good. Like but yeah, no, check it out. It's good.
Okay. Sounds good.
In terms of forgettable but entertaining films, there's Beast with the Idris Elba movie with the lion.
Oh, that's what that is. I was looking at it. I was like, what the hell is Beast?
No, it's not like Beauty and the Beast.
No. Okay, yeah, tell me about Beast. I actually did want to watch this film. It's got Shutter Copley in it.
Yeah.
He's always fun.
Yeah, he plays a more likable guy in this movie.
He's always fun in bad movies.
Yeah. I mean, the plot's pretty simple. I think it's about like kind of a father who takes his daughters out to somewhere in South Africa. I think it's like a grieving father. And they're trying to like just connect with each other. And there's, one of the daughters is like arguing with the dad all the time, and another one's just there. and like Shutter Copley is like a old schoolmate of Idris Elba. So I don't remember the characters, it's just the actor's name. But yeah, then, they go into like sort of like a safari thing, and a lion comes and attacks them, and shenanigans ensues, and I think the first half of this movie is pretty good. The second half of it kind of like it's stretching your suspension of disbelief a bit too much.
Is the lion superpowered like that tiger from that movie, The Tiger? That we watched?
Tiger. Yeah, it's pretty OP. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just it's fun. It's a fun movie. There's a lot of. You can tell that the lion is CGI, but
How's Africa looking?
Yeah, it looks good. Like I think the film does a lot of that kind of point of view shot where it's like
from the point of view of the lion, just ripping into a jugular.
No, it's kind of not point of view. That kind of like one take kind of thing. So it's kind of floating around a lot.
Yeah.
So I like that illusion. But yeah, like it's all right. There's no deeper meaning. I mean, there's obviously like the usual man is the real monster at some point. But it's just Idris Elba trying to get away from a lion.
Does it
with his daughters.
err more on the side of action or on suspense?
It's probably more suspense. Yeah, there's not a lot of like. I mean, there's no kung fu-ing.
He doesn't fist fight the lion at any point.
At the end he does. So
challenges the lion to one-on-one Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Spoiler, not spoiler, really, because I mean, there's only really one way this movie
I think that's all. That's what we wanted to see, anyway. Is it just Elba fighting a lion?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Okay.
One more movie I mentioned before we probably talk about something that we've both seen. And this one was probably one of the more controversial movies this year. I watched Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe movie that was directed by Andrew Dominique. If you look on like reviews online, this movie is a bit of a stinker, but I really like this movie, which is it's odd because like when you read reviews and like people who say like, oh, you should be ashamed to watch this movie, and like it. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm going to give it 4.5 stars.
Pure smut, Tubby. Pure smut. I can understand why you'd like it, Tubby. You depraved individual.
Look, it's a biopic movie that is an art house film at the same time. So I think many of the people who are going in to watch this movie were expecting something like an Elvis or whatever that Whitney Houston movie's coming out. You know all those like musical what's that Bohemian Rhapsody? They're like
Rocket
they're fun.
Man.
They're fun movies, but they're pretty forgettable. Yeah,
they're always titled like the name of one of their famous songs. Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man.
It's
the Weeknd's version is probably going to be called Starboy.
Starboy, yeah,
for
I think
sure,
you mentioned that. Yeah, but the thing is, I wanted to watch this movie because I like Andrew Dominic movies. He's the dude that did like Chopper. Like, if anyone, that's classic Australian cinema.
Australian reference.
Yeah. And he did the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Okay,
which
so
I quite
he
liked.
Specializes in biopics then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that. And yeah, he's done a lot of work with Nick Cave, which you and I have talked about. And you've shared not very much interest, which I probably understand because those movies are they're like slow burn, a bit wanky, of course, but yeah, like, you know, I like his vision.
A bit, but it's very wanky.
No, it's not. You know, it's a director using his creative flair to create like a piece of art. And I think that this movie is...
It's like the
that's a very wanky, yeah. But it's true,
wankiest
right?
explanation of a wanky film I've ever heard.
But like this movie, like a lot of people say, like this director like hates Marilyn with the way he depicted her. But I also saying that Ana de Armas, who does a fantastic job, and I believe she was in a bit of controversy because she is a Cuban actress playing Marilyn, but I didn't even notice that at all.
It's called acting, friends.
Yeah. I think because like I know this movie is based on a novel which is known to be a fictionalized version of Marilyn's life. So some of the events in this movie are fiction, but a lot of it is fact as well. And I think people were probably not really prepared to see such a heavy depiction of Marilyn's experience, you know. But I think it's a lot of people get taken advantage of in like the Hollywood system, you know. I guess it's kind of, I mean, drawing a light to that kind of, I guess you can talk about Me Too, the Me Too movement, I suppose. But it seems like people just can't get over the sex in this movie.
Yeah. Because I don't think anybody is against shining a spotlight on that issue, right? So I don't know where the criticism is coming from other than that.
There is one scene which I will say is a little bit exploitative.
Okay.
But otherwise, well,
that's probably it then. If you think that is exploitative, you don't often hear that criticism from you.
But you're supposed to, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable, right, when you're watching these scenes. And I'm an Ana de Armas fan. You know, I liked her in Blade Runner. I liked her in Bond. She was good. Okay in The Great Man. But like, it's almost one of those like experience movies where you kind of just there like watching like, you know, the visuals to it, because there's a lot of like filmmaking craft that's going into this. There's lots of like aspect ratio changes. There's lots of scenes where it's colored and then it's black and white. And Ana de Armas, who is probably like gives the best performance of her career, you know, she really like goes for it, but it's kind of being a little bit undermined by much of the I guess the vitriol that's against this movie.
I guess the thing is though, Tavi, people don't really like to feel uncomfortable. You know, if a
that's the
movie
thing,
makes you feel uncomfortable, you're probably going to have
if a
a bad
movie
opinion
makes you
about
feel
it.
uncomfortable, it's not necessarily a bad movie.
That's right. I agree with that. But
I think that's why like a lot of people who watched it, and it's just like, this movie makes me feel bad, so it's bad.
Yeah, I think that's probably the association that's happening here. I mean, like, what's the most recent? The most recent movie I think that has made me uncomfortable is The Sadness, and I feel like I'm objective enough to register that that is a feeling that is meant to occur while watching that film. So, bravo who's involved in that movie.
Yeah. I think this movie is just unfairly judged. But like, also, as you said, I'm pretty like experienced in watching feel bad movies and long movies.
You love it. You love feeling bad about yourself.
And wanky. Yeah, I do. It's a fantastic feeling, you know. I guess it makes sense that maybe an audience who is Netflix viewers who are there for mostly casual watching are probably not gonna like this movie, and it's not for everyone. But I think, I don't know, I feel like this movie was a bit unfairly, like, you know, critiqued.
Okay.
Because I think it's good.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a watch at some point. It is on Netflix, right? So it'll be there for a while.
You're probably not going to finish it. Yeah, you're not going to be able to watch it with the tester. It's definitely not. It's not a short.
I'll watch it on my own on the bus. Then it's probably a good movie to watch on the bus, right?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you just have people looking over. It's like, you know.
I'll watch it on the bus on speaker. Tell me about that.
Yeah, but no, it's a good movie. Let's talk about something.
At the risk of running this recording over time, I did want to mention a couple of movies, if that's okay with you, Tavi.
No, it's not.
You just left.
It's mine.
I went on a bit of a horror kick.
I can see.
In preparation for Halloween, I guess. So I watched Bodies. That was fun. You haven't seen it, right?
Yeah, I want to watch it. I've heard some pretty good things about it.
I think you'll like it. If you can get over the instinct as a grizzled 30-plus-year-old to dislike Gen Z. If you can get over that,
Gen Zers.
I mean, just
I'm friends with a lot of Gen Zers.
This is like an extreme version though of like Gen Z
but
culture.
I know it's a parody.
And it's meant to, like, the fact that it is parody and it's meant to, you know, highlight how absurd the culture can be sometimes. You know, that's why I was able to stomach it. But I can see a lot of people, like maybe older than me, probably just being like, this is fucking dumb. I hate these people. I hate them.
Yeah.
And
people who aren't really familiar with like Gen Z and maybe like the parody of it. Like, is it obvious enough though? Like for you and I, we're on the internet, right? You know?
Yeah.
So we don't know some
we're
of that
hip
stuff.
to the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, these aren't even kids, but I mean, it's obvious, but also accurate is the thing. You know what I mean? Like, just the stuff that they talk about. I could imagine people having that kind of discussion on the bus. You know? And yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating aspect of it, is that it is very close. It does hit very close to home, even though it is parody. But I mean, that is the fun of it, I think. Like, the characters I don't think are meant to be likable. So the events that occur throughout the film, like, you know, it just adds to the humor of the film because, you don't really feel too badly for any of these characters, even when bad things happen to them. The vibe of it is very kind of like, ooh, murder mystery, which is, I like that vibe.
Yeah, it's not really a horror. I think it's kind of marketed as a horror, but it's more like murder mystery. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It is quite murder mystery. Like, it is pretty gory from memory. There are some scenes, where there is a bit of gore. But yeah, like it's not like really jump scary or anything. And it's not a supernatural flick either. So yeah, I mean, you kind of know what you're getting with it. My main criticism of this film is that the pacing is a little bit off at times. Like,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of times where it's just a person like slowly creeping through a dark house. And because it's dark, you can't really see anything really. So you're just watching a black screen for a lot of the film. But then again, that might be just my failing eyesight as an old fuck that doesn't understand Gen Z culture. But no, I do feel like there was some dead air at points, which for this kind of film shouldn't really happen. Like it should be a pretty tight affair. But yeah, I think all of the performances are quite good. The characters are fun to watch on screen. They all have like this chemistry that is, quite believable. I would put this on if you just want to have a good time, not think too much about anything. I also watched a short film on YouTube called Other Side of the Box. Have you heard of this?
No, it's the first time I've heard of it.
I don't know much about the production. My partner put this on for us. After explaining the premise, I was like, yeah, let's watch it. It's short. It's like maybe 20 minutes ish.
Okay, yeah.
The premise is this couple, or the boyfriend or in this couple, gets a knock on the door from his partner's ex-boyfriend, who, just from context, you know that they never really got along. So it's a surprise when this guy comes to visit them on Christmas. The ex-boyfriend gives the current boyfriend this box and then hastily makes his exit. And they're like, that's weird. Why did he give you this box even though he doesn't like you? So they open this box, and then at first there's nothing. But when they look away from the box and look back, a guy has started to peek his head out of the box. And it turns out this guy can only move when they're looking away. Right, so that's the thing. I don't want to spoil any more of the movie than that. But yeah, that's the setup. If that sounds interesting to you, then
it does. It does sound interesting.
Yeah, give it a watch. It's quite fun and very short, so it doesn't take up too much of your time. And I will say, the acting at the start is quite camp and quite like hokey, but it really sticks the landing. So stick with it till the end, is what I'll say.
I see it's on Alta. Yeah, the channel. Yeah, I've seen a couple of films on here. Yeah. But let's talk about maybe two of the films that we've seen. One we watched together and one we didn't.
Okay.
Let's talk about the shit one first. So you watched Thor: Love and Thunder, yeah?
Yeah, of course I did, Tavi. Number one Marvel fanboy over here.
Man, this movie, like, we didn't even need to go through a synopsis of this movie.
Yeah, it's Thor doing Thor.
It's Thor
stuff.
doing Thor. Like,
Taika Waititi's Thor, the lovable goofball that we fell in love with in Thor Ragnarok. He's basically doing it again.
It's weird because this movie sucked. Like, I gave this movie 2 stars, and we were talking about how 2 stars is not necessarily that bad. I gave it that because, I mean, it costs a lot of money to make, and I guess like some of it is, it's a competent enough production.
As much shit as we give Marvel sometimes, like, they do have a consistent level of quality, I would say. Like, they don't make atrocious films, really.
But I think this movie is so painfully average. Like,
in many ways, that's worse than atrocious.
Yeah, that's the thing. I watched this when it came out on Disney Plus. I watched this with Boone and Nat, and like, I think I don't remember what we were doing before watching this, but I was doing some recordings with Boone, so I'm like, we're a little bit tired, so let's watch something that's gonna wake us up a bit. And we put on, it's a Marvel movie, right? So there should be like enough flash, and it's Taika Waititi as well. Like I like his movies. And then when we watched this movie, there was just this collective, like palpable disinterest that you can just feel in the air. Like we just got bored of the quips because there's so many quips in this movie.
Yeah.
We got bored of the goats. And just like we liked Christian Bale. This was my favorite part of this movie. Even though his character himself is not that great, his performance was fun enough. But yeah, I don't know. This movie just like it was just so boring, and I think I saw Boone fall asleep like several times through this movie.
What did you think of Russell Crowe?
I mean, it's okay. Like I don't know, just a bit of a goofball. Yeah, I don't know.
Under fire a little bit because of that accent.
Who do you think?
Really? Oh, the Greek accent. Yeah.
He's doing a real like 90s Australian like sketch comedy Greek accent.
Yeah.
Like a Con the Fruiterer accent, you know that guy?
Yeah. I know. I probably just checked out by that point and was just like just present in the moment. I think there was one bit where like Boone turned at me and I can remember like the expression on my face. I was just sitting there with like a mouth agape from like fatigue, and he just looked and laughed at me because I was just like that disinterested. And like,
Yeah. Christian Bale is all right in this. It's a shame that he's quite good in such a mediocre film, to be honest. Like not just him, but his character. I feel like he's quite a good antagonist in that he's not entirely wrong. In his actions, in the justification of his actions.
Yeah.
Like he is a character who has been spurned and betrayed by the gods, so he's decided to kill all the gods because he figures they're all dickheads. Yeah. And for the most part of the movie, yeah, they are all kind of dickheads, aren't they?
Yeah.
Except for Thor, I guess.
Yeah.
And that big tiger that he kills is apparently a pretty good guy, but like we only really have Thor's word to go on.
There's a tiger? Where?
He kills like a massive tiger god off screen, and then like
what?
Yeah,
I don't remember this at all. Like Christian Bale kills a tiger god.
Yeah, remember Lady Sif is in this film.
Oh yeah,
and she calls Thor or something, and she's like, yeah, this tiger god is dead. And Thor is sad about it because he's like, oh, that guy's nice.
Well, thanks for showing us that.
Yeah. I would have loved to see that happen, but no, it happens off screen. And I mean, you see the dead body, I think, and Lady Sif has an arm missing from the battle. But yeah, I mean, aside from those two examples, one of which we don't even see for ourselves that he's a good guy. We just have Thor's word on it that he's a good guy. You know, all the other gods are like assholes. They're like all go to Zeus's palace or whatever and like make bets on how many human sacrifices they can get. Like that. That's not right. maybe Christian Bale's character is in the right in this instance. And it would have been really cool to explore that, you know, morality. But nah.
But it's Marvel, man.
Yeah.
How's everything gonna do that? The only thing I took from this movie was the floating head memes.
Yeah, you sent me these after the fact. I was like, oh yeah, that does look like CGI.
They fixed it in the Disney Plus version.
Oh, okay, that's why.
But in the Ken version, I didn't notice it, and then like it's really like. It's pretty embarrassingly bad.
I mean, it's all that's just like visual artists on the crunch, right?
Getting burnt out. So all like it's sad because like these movies, they don't look very good, and it's not the artist's fault. It's like Disney's fucking the Disney machine that's pumping out like 5 movies a year. And 7 TV shows a year. Like that's intense, man. Yeah. And
for them to work so hard only for
and then for
people to
just
complain
like
about
tick and laugh at it.
about She-Hulk.
That's sad, man. Yeah, that's tragic because like these people are probably like
They're
really hard
tired,
workers.
man. They're tired.
And this is like Marvel's like
they don't get paid that much either.
they don't get paid very much, no. And then it's just like everyone's wailing on them. Even us, we wail on them.
Yeah.
So my gripe is more just slow down, man. Like
Yeah, I think Marvel and Disney need to take a step back and just reassess the situation. Maybe week to week Marvel stuff isn't such a good idea at this point. You know, people are starting to get tired.
It's a business model, man. Like you're not gonna get the Disney Plus trial, watch an entire series and back out. You're gonna do it week by week, man.
Yeah,
So fucking yeah, that's how they get you, man. You know, got your money. It's funny because every time we do one of these episodes, it's always a segment where we bash Marvel, where like we're basically becoming a parody of ourselves.
Yeah,
it's basically like I reckon you could make a compilation of us just like bashing Marvel like as its own episode, and it'd be too long.
Let's make that supercut. Let's talk about something else.
Let's talk about Hunt. This is a movie we watched together in the theater.
Correct.
That when you were
very
down in
nice
Melbourne.
theater. I really like that theater.
Yeah, Pentridge is the bomb, man. It's where I watch all my stuff, except all the Indian films aren't playing there, which is sad.
They'll get there eventually, I reckon.
No, they just don't show there. I have to go to different cinemas, which are more ghetto and less art house than Pentridge is. And like they're showing a lot of the Indian movies. I watched Chup there, which we should probably cover in its own episode. But and we watched Vikram Vedha at Epping, which is like very surprising.
I would have loved to watch that at Pentridge.
Yeah, I wish they were shown there because I can get the points. But
also the sound seems to be better at Pentridge.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, no, we watched Lee Jung-jae's directorial debut.
You might know him as the main character from
Squid Game.
Squid Game. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard of Squid Game.
Watched it because it's so popular. Yeah, he's that guy. He's that
guy. So this is kind of like an espionage thriller. Lee Jung-jae plays Park Pyong-ho, so he's the foreign unit chief of the Korean CIA. And opposite him is another very prolific actor from Korea and personal favorites of ours, Jung Woo-sung, playing Kim Jung-do, who's like a domestic unit chief. But none of those titles really matter. The thing that gripped me to want to watch this movie is Boone linked me a trailer, and then I watched the trailer, and it's like Lee Jung-jae just yelling a panicked yell about a sniper, cut with like edited a straight cut to like Jung Woo-sun and a group of like CIA goons just sprinting towards the camera. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sold. Like, I want to watch this movie.
There's a lot of running in this film.
There's a lot of running. There's a lot of chasing people down. There's a lot of kind of like Michael Mann Heat style action, which I really enjoyed. I like the kind of grounded action. I wish it was edited a little bit better.
There's a lot of like taking cover behind cars, right?
Yeah,
and shooting at each other.
Yeah.
It's kind of marketed as like an actor versus actor film. Right?
Yeah, it is, and it sort of is at points. And then it's not, and then it is.
It's not in the traditional sense, because I feel like there's a lot more espionage in this film than I expected. There's a lot more like verbal subterfuge, I guess. Like, stuff where it's not really actiony. It's just like, they tip off the wrong guy, or they get information against each other. It's more like kind of this like chess game, you know, rather than fisticuffs generally. Yeah, which I wasn't expecting, but I like that.
No, I enjoyed that. I guess the overarching or the basic plot is that there's basically a mole within the CIA or the Korean CIA, and they're basically trying to find out who the mole is. So the mole's like a North Korean spy who's known as Donglin. But the movie kind of weaves a lot of real life events that happened in Korea in the 1980s. So this film is set in the 80s. This movie is really fun, but I think when we talked about the Grey Man being overly simple, I think this movie is very complicated. It's very convoluted. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that's where most of the critiques is. Like, this movie was sort of alrightly received, I guess, but yeah, a lot of people were kind of confused where it was.
It kind of reminded me of Age of Shadows, a movie that we have covered in the past, because it is that same kind of spy games vibe. Yeah. And the plot is equally convoluted, I would say. I think that's par for the course for these kinds of spy films. It's like...
I found Age of Shadows pretty easy to follow, though. Like, I was never lost.
I think the story is told a bit better, so it's a bit easier to follow. Whereas this, like, maybe the points that allow you to follow the story are not emphasized well enough. And that makes it a bit more convoluted. But I think, there are as many twists and turns in both of these films. A lot of this film has to do with the assassination attempts on the South Korean president and the plot to assassinate the South Korean president.
Yeah, where he was a bit of a not a good guy back in the day. What we were doing research on.
Yeah, if you're not privy to the history, you might be fooled into thinking, that it's just North Korea are the bad guys, right?
Yeah.
So you obviously want to catch the spy that is embedded in them. But then, like, after looking at the history, you're like, oh yeah, maybe this South Korean president is probably not a great guy. So maybe, like, who's to say? There is that kind of moral gray area where like maybe assassinating him was the right call. So I mean, there are a lot of elements to this film, which is partly why I like it a lot, and why the performances as well are great.
They're great. Yeah,
these two actors can't really be faulted.
No, definitely not. The sprinting and
a lot of yelling at each other.
a lot of torture.
Yes,
there's a lot of torture in this movie. I was like, it's pretty.
But it's like casual torture as well.
It's pretty full on. Like, this movie. It's not graphic, but it can be pretty intense to watch. Like, it's
again kind of like Age of Shadows.
Yeah, I'm just looking now, and apparently, just on the wiki, it was re-edited for international release. Like, apparently, the Korean theatrical release had a lot more historical aspect to it.
Okay.
But apparently, at Cannes, a lot of people were confused by the Korean politics. So maybe, I'm not sure if we watched the international version, or maybe just in terms of re-editing it, it probably just lost. And maybe they should just kept it as it was intended.
Well, I didn't feel lost in the version that we watched. So I feel like we probably got maybe the edited version. There was like parts where, like, there's this North Korean pilot that makes an appearance. And I recognize this actor. He's quite prolific. I've seen him around. And I was like, okay, he's probably going to be a main dude. But then he just disappears from the movie after that one scene. So I'm like, what the hell was that about? And then I looked it up after, and it's like, okay, this guy was a real person. And that's why he had such a focus.
Hwan Jung-min. Yeah. He's the guy that, like, stabs the shit out of Lee Min-hun, a bittersweet life.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
one of the first the exposure to excessive Korean stabbing. But yeah, he's been in another Lee Jung-jae movie, Deliver Us from Evil, where he plays the good guy for a change. It's a pretty entertaining movie. I definitely check it out. Pretty easy to watch.
Yeah.
And that was my first time. Actually, no, not the first time I see Lee Jung-jae. But
yeah, Hunt. I mean, if you're looking for like a straight up action film, if you're looking for the Grey Man, this is not the Grey Man.
Yeah, it's not the Grey.
It's espionage, but it's a different beast, right?
I think this is kind of what I wanted. I mentioned the Grey Man a lot. I think Grey Man is probably one of the most disappointing films I've seen this year.
Did you want the Grey Man to be more like this film?
Yeah, I did want the Grey Man to be more like this. The kind of espionage, these two egos butting heads. And some pretty more grounded action sequences.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
my camera just turned off. Shit, I think it ran out of battery. One sec.
Okay. Well, do you just want to use an avatar or something, or?
Yeah, let's just do it like an avatar thing. But yeah, what are we talking about? Hunt. I don't know. I think there's a middle ground between this kind of espionage film and the Grey Man. Probably Born Identity treads pretty solid middle ground, right?
Born Identity does that pretty well. I've actually only seen the first Born Identity, and it's a pretty good movie. I just haven't watched the other ones. I guess I don't get into some franchises as easily. It's just it's a lot to watch.
Yeah, Hunt. Pretty good.
Yeah, go watch it. It's a fun movie. I'll probably give it another watch. I might like it more or less.
I don't know. It's fun. It's not for everyone though. I think.
But good directorial debut from Lee Jung-jae.
All right. I think that wraps us up. My camera's out of battery, so that probably is a sign for us to wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. What do you think of the movies that we talked about this month? Did you have a different opinion on any of them? Did you like Thor, Love and Thunder? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram at twoasianblokes to see what we're up to. You can also follow us on Letterboxd if you like. I am at Dan with a H, and Tavi is at Tavi Tongkum. Thank you for listening, guys.
Yeah. Hopefully you can put up with some of our technical glitches during this
Don't worry, I'll get it in editing. People won't even notice.
Yeah, you're gonna 3D animate yourself.
Yeah.
For the last portion, the last segment of
I get my ping pong balls out. Do some motion capture.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those. Yeah. That's just pretty outdated apparently. But
You're pretty outdated. Shut up. All right, guys. That's it from us. See you later.
See ya. Bye.